when we started doing the pilot trials at the Ghent Festival, which were in fact started from a very scientific idea, we wanted to have a continuous flow of urine. Then we through the media attention started to get a lot of questions from a lot of people worldwide, in fact, because of the worldwide media attention. So we got questions from people that did eco-lodging because they were interested in the sustainable aspects of our installation. We got a lot of questions from within developing countries and NGOs working with developing countries to solve the sanitation problem. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for example, they came to us as well. We got questions from the industry. A lot of companies that were faced with nutrients that they had to get rid of and actually wanted to recover within their system, they came to us. We had people coming to us, the ESA came to us, the NASA, the International Space Station. So all of those opportunities we discovered, and together with a joint fascination for developing countries, that was actually quite interesting. But then we started thinking further. And if you look at Flanders, for example, we have a huge issue with a nutrient surplus. In Flanders, there's a lot of pig farmers, there's a lot of cow farmers who have a lot of manure and they have to get rid of that manure. They're not allowed to bring all their manure onto the land, so they have to get that manure treated externally. And at the same time, they have to buy artificial fertilizers because they're not allowed to put all the nutrient content in the manure onto the land because it's animal origin. So if you look at our installation turns this animal manure into artificial fertilizers. So that was a very, very clear option for the technology as well. And it was only through brainstorming, through interactions with a lot of stakeholders that we came to this realization. So the three markets that we looked into, the market of developing countries, the market of, let's say, call it the airports, the festivals, the eco sanitation locations, and then the manure market. Those were the three markets that we looked into. And at first we did it from a very technical point of view. Which one of these streams is the easiest one to treat with our installation? However, as soon as we started to realize there was some economic potential and we wanted to build a company, then we looked at these markets from a very economical point of view. We looked at the size of the markets. So basically, what is the total available market, the sizable available market, and the sizable obtainable market? How much of these markets can we actually obtain? Can we actually penetrate with our technology? That way, that was a first, let's say, prioritization. The developing country market is very large. It's a bit more difficult to access. The market of festivals and airports is, well, much smaller. And then if you look at the manure market, that's in fact quite a large market if you look at not only in Belgium, but also in Europe as a whole. But then for each of the markets, we also looked at what are the strengths of our technology to enter each of these markets and what are the potential threats. So we did a SWOT analysis where we compared the unique selling points of our installation to, let's say, what the market really wanted. So we did a SWOT analysis. And then we saw, in fact, in developing countries, what one of the major threats is that you have to get paid. I mean, your installation has to get paid. And pre-financing an installation is very difficult in developing countries. So we would have to pre-finance it, and that's very difficult for the starting company. The market of festivals, let's say airports, that's a small market, so that wasn't that interesting. And the manure market had a very clear problem, an acute problem that really had to be solved. The clients were here, they were near to us, and in fact it was a very interesting, easy market to enter. And all of that we combined into a Porter analysis where we looked at the competition, where we looked at potential suppliers and clients. And that way we actually prioritized that the manure market for us at this point was the easiest one to go in. We could very easily access it. There was a proven problem, so we really had shown product market fit because there was a problem there. We had a solution and there was profit potential. This is a part that we thoroughly enjoyed, also as a scientist, because it's relates to the inventiveness of how can you find data and how can you translate that into an actionable item. So looking at Saturn, what we did is we looked at the different target groups, and then we had to identify how can we now relate the size of those targets group to the amount of installations, for example, we can sell. And a simple example is in underdeveloped countries, so developing countries. You have to find info on how big is this sanitation problem there? How many people do not have access to toilets? How many people live in, for example, a small village? And how many installations does that represent? And that means that you have to find data in scientific literature, statistical databases, which you very easily have access to as a spin-off company. But you also have to talk to organizations that are present in those countries. And for example, if we talk about the manure market, there you have to talk to organizations that represent a lot of farmers in Flanders. That's the Boerenbond or the Farmers Union. And those instances, those organizations, they typically have data, let's say general data that can tell you a bit about how does this market look. But then there's always an intellectual exercise where you have to translate those large numbers into real data on how many, in our case, installations can you now sell, and what does the typical size of an installation have to be. And that's really an intellectual exercise because it relates to the economic aspects as well.